Hello, this is Annie, and I'm renovating yet another Veronaville lot. So in this case, as I mentioned in the previous video, I had actually planned to sort of build a house for Antonio Monti, but I felt like I needed some more inspiration before I did that for how sort of to build that house. And I didn't really want him to move into too big of a house because I felt like after Antonio lost his position as the primary heir, he would have to sort of step down from that sort of expensive, lavish lifestyle. He was not the primary heir anymore, so he would have a little bit more of humble finances, or what I should say. So I consciously chose to not move him into this house and actually build something smaller for him and his children. But I still wanted it to be in the same style, so I actually ended up placing down another family in this house in order to renovate it and to learn more about it and draw some inspiration from it, together with the Monty Ranch that I've already renovated. So I ended up picking out the Turner family, and that is Edward, April, Ralph. And then technically there's also a brother of Edward's. He's a bartender. I don't remember his name at the moment, but I made him into Edward's brother because they have the exact same face. So I just felt like that made sense. And he also had the Turner last name, and I felt like that suited Veronaville better than the other options that I had. So that made this family into the Turner family. And well, what with his brother being a bartender, that's what he's gonna be working with. And of course, this being sort of a British / Italian, Spanish, European inspired neighborhood, all the countries. Yeah, of course there's gonna be a pub. There has to be. So I'm gonna be ending up building that as well. I don't know yet if he's gonna own the pub himself or if he's just gonna be an employee. That's something that I have yet to figure out. But then Edward is the one who I guess is the primary heir of the Turner family. So he is the one who got this huge mansion. And I'm actually playing around with the thought of Edward not being the eldest child. I think it would be a little bit interesting to have this family have sort of a similar story as the Monty family, that the younger brother actually ended up inheriting because of sort of the older brother being disgraced in some way. So I suppose that, the other brother who's a bartender is gonna, he's a roommate right now with two other guys. So I guess they're gonna have sort of an apartment together, living together, and not really have that much money between them. I guess Edward got all the money and all the all the wealth from this house. And I assume a family business as well. I have no idea what kind of family business it's gonna be yet, but I guess I'm gonna have to figure out something that fits in with the vibe of Veronaville. So I started out just changing out sort of the roof pattern and the doors and windows and such into more of the same style that I've used so far, and using the Torox set again. And that sort of makes me see the house a bit more clearly, I feel like, and I started to reimagine the layout for it. And this little corner room that was off to the far right seemed a little bit random to me and very small, so I extended it a little bit, and I'm actually gonna end up using that as Ralph's bedroom. He's gonna be a little bit more separated from the rest of the family into his own space. And my thoughts are that this sort of corner room is sort of meant for either a live-in butler or some sort of like extended family living there, or that sort of the children and the parents are supposed to be here upstairs in these rooms. That's sort of the intention. But that now that he has grown into a teenager and eventually as he's getting gonna be a young adult as well, I'm assuming that he's gonna be staying here and live in that room. So he's gonna have sort of his own little apartment, one could say, within the family house. So that's sort of my idea for how that turned out. And then I also changed out the layout here downstairs and worked again with these open arches combined with actual doors to make it make sense in my mind at least. And these are the rooms that I ended up placing down upstairs. So there's going to be 2 rooms that's intended for kids' rooms, I guess, and 1 bathroom. And I actually also went ahead and added in 1 more of those slim balconies upstairs because I just felt like that was a nice feature that I wanted to preserve from the original. And I bet that Edward would have wanted more children. He's a fortune sim, but I'm assuming then if his older brother was sort of disgraced and lost his heirship, that he would have to take over and that he sort of feel this strong sense of duty that he must fulfill, that he would have wanted to have more than 1 kid. But we also have his wife, April, who is actually a romance sim. So my thoughts right now is that she probably married Edward for the money. And that 1 kid was sort of enough for her, that she didn't really want to spend more of her time pregnant. And I think that might be some strife between them. I took a look at them briefly before I sat down to start renovating this house, and it seems like they don't have any attraction with each other at all. So I think that any romance between them might be pretty tricky. And I think that there's a quite big chance that April is gonna find another lover. And I can really see it happening that she ends up getting caught in the act by Edward. Eventually, that really wouldn't surprise me. So I'm gonna see what I end up doing with that. But yeah, they don't really start out strong here. And I'm gonna have to see about Ralph as well, whether he is interested in the family business at all. Like right now, he doesn't really have much of a choice because there's no other person who could take over the family business. So unless he wants to really, really upset his father, he's gonna have to just make that into his life choice, I suppose. Yeah, we're gonna have to see. Maybe Edward ends up finding another wife eventually, or maybe April actually comes around and agrees to have more kids. Who knows? So having all of those things in mind when furnishing this house for the family, I also ended up putting in some more of those old-timey wallpapers into this house to make it seem a little bit more noble, I guess. And I feel like the Turner family might be yet another one of those old rich families that have been here in Veronaville for a very, very long time. I think that I'm gonna put down, this wealthy family on this side of the river, and then on the Cap side, I'm probably gonna put down another one. Of course, there's gonna be the family that has the sort of the university, well, no, not in the high school principal, I think. I've sort of prepared 2 lots on that side for both Bianca Monti's house and then also a house for the principal. Like they sort of get those houses with their positions, or at least they're offered those houses. That's sort of my idea for that at the moment. So they're not going to have one of the Tudor houses, but then maybe another one of the families. That's sort of what's going on in my head. But I also don't want to have too many of those either. I want to mix it up a bit with not that wealthy families as well. And of course, I've already plopped down 2 of them in the sort of the townhouses that I already built, sort of the stacked ones that I did previously. But I think I'm gonna want to have a few more of those with not that wealthy families. And possibly that I'm gonna plop some down into some of the smaller Tudor houses, maybe. That's sort of what I'm thinking about at the moment. So when I first sat down and sort of took a look at this house, I thought that I would change out the way that the courtyard looked here out back, but I actually only changed out the fencing around it and the terrain paint. The plants actually looked quite nice still, so I ended up keeping it. I was thinking about adding in this tree because it's really nice looking, but I just couldn't find a good spot for it, so I never ended up placing it down. I know I brought it out a few times to sort of look around to see what I could do, but yeah, there never was a good spot for it. So. And I'm also adding in a fence around here, and well, it's for looks in part because I want this to be a bit protected since it is a mansion after all, but also because I want this to be fenced in, because as I'm sitting down to play, I don't want any strays or wolves or other creatures to wander sort of into the home lot and make a mess. So it's better to keep them out this way. Actually, I know that they can still walk sort of around the house to the back, so I should probably also put in an invisible fence somewhere to prevent that from happening. Then I'm going in here with some nice flowers again. I really enjoy putting down this sort of more plants that you would see in a climate that's a little bit hotter, like I guess a Mediterranean climate compared to what I normally see in Sweden. It's quite different, so it's fun to play around with colors and these kinds of plants. This would never survive in Sweden. In a greenhouse maybe. And then I also am putting down these window boxes, and I actually also went ahead and placed them down on the side of the balcony. Funnily enough, the name for these kinds of planters is actually balcony boxes in Swedish. So that's sort of what my mind goes to when I see them. Sort of, it's not the most natural to place them outside a window for me. It's more natural to actually have them hang off of a balcony railing. So yeah, that's what I did there. And of course I had to use the snap objects to grid false sheet to make that work. I saw that this part of the terrain paint was a bit wonky, so I flattened it out, and that made it look 10 times better. And then I'm going ahead and starting out with the master bedroom. So it's going to be this really expensive looking bed, of course. I really love the looks of this. And I was struggling a little bit for a while here with the wardrobes to find something that looked nice but could also fit in nicely on 3 tiles wide. Because a lot of the wardrobes that I have are just too wide, so they wouldn't be able to squeeze in, but I ended up finding some at the end. And I really, really love the way that this bedroom turned out, the way that you can sort of see the flowers outside of the balcony when you're standing in this angle of the room. It's really nice. Something else that I wanted to play around a bit with in this neighborhood that I don't normally do is to have the wealthy families sort of promise their children away in some cases, because I sort of want to draw some inspiration from Shakespeare in that way, that there's some arranged marriages and some love stories with people who are not supposed to be together because they're already promised to someone else. And I figure that Ralph is probably engaged to someone, even though he's only a teenager. And my idea right now is that I'm gonna make that be Beatrice Monty, because it just makes sense with her age, and I'm sure that the Montys want her to have a prestigious marriage. So yeah, that's sort of what my mind has gone to at the moment. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is to cheat and make them engaged with the sim lender. And that way they will have those sort of engaged tokens on their relationship panels. But yeah, it's not going to really have much of an impact, except for the fact that if they ever find a romantic partner elsewhere, it's going to turn up in their memories as them cheating, which is really nice, I think. So I'm still going to have that aspect of it. So I'm interested to see what other kinds of relationships I can build, because I'm sure that the Caps would have done something similar. And yeah, promised away some of the kids to other people. I was also considering if maybe one of the Cap girls would have been promised to Ralph, but I just feel like this family is too close to the Montys in some way, that they are sort of connected, and yeah, they're too closely located to one another, that I just didn't make sense, I guess. So I think I'm gonna stick to the Montys in this case. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a teenager's room without posters. So I have to put that in here. But it's kind of funny to see those splattered across this really nice, expensive wallpaper. I bet that Edward wasn't very happy when he saw what Ralph had done to those wallpapers, those pinholes. Oh well, kids be kids. I'm really trying to rack my brain to figure out what kind of family business this family would have. It's gotta be something that suits Veronaville after all, but I feel like I don't want yet another restaurant chain. And I think I want to keep the pub business separate because of Edward's brother. So I don't want to do that either. Besides that, of course, we have the Summer Dream family with their theater. And I feel like some more creative businesses make sense in Veronaville. So I could do something like that, like maybe they have a museum or something. I think that would be quite fun. What else could there be? I guess they could have an art studio as well. Something like that, I think. Yeah, it's a lot to think about. I'm gonna have to figure something out. I think I do want it to be a playable career, because I do want to put in businesses that I get to play and that my Sims get to use and visit to make this town more lively quicker. Community lots is really important for that. So yeah, I think I do want to do that. So it needs to be something that I can really see be drawing in a lot of money as well. Because of course they must have built their wealth of something. And yeah, here we are in the kitchen, and I was actually fighting with this kitchen for a while because I really wanted to expand my views and not reuse the same Shakelicious kitchen that I have used everywhere. So I tried this out and I found this really nice green color. And as I was placing down the first counters, I fell in love with it because it matched really well with the brown color of the walls and everything. But the more of these cabinets and things that I placed down, the more I started to feel like, oh God, do I hate it or do I love it? And then at the end, I realized that nope, I hate it. So I actually had to go in and change everything out and try to find another recolor and match it because the green just took over. And thinking about it now, I might have still been able to use the green counters, but I would have had to have cabinets in another color in that case. But having mismatched cabinets and counters would have probably made it look a little bit more cheap. And that's really not the vibe that I was going for. So yeah, I think it was a good choice to change it out in this case. But now I'm really itching to use that green color somewhere else. Yeah, in downtown maybe, or in Pleasant View. I'm gonna have to see what I can figure out. So the vision that I had for this kitchen was actually that it had to have an island in the middle. So I was really pleased to find a way to incorporate that. And I actually love the way that you can see straight through these arches into the kitchen, even from way back where the staircase starts and you come into the first room. The room just sort of extends into this long connected thing. And yeah, I really love the way that it turned out. I went for a matching color dining table here in the dining room. And again, picking some really expensive looking curtains. I really wanted this to, yeah, look old and aristocratic, I guess. So question is if this family was here before the Montis or if the Montis are the older family. I'm sort of getting the vibe that maybe this family was here before them, actually. That maybe the Turners was actually the first arrivals to the Caps. And then, yeah, the Turners sort of fell from grace in some way, that they only had 2 heirs left. And yeah, maybe the Caps had a hand in that to sort of get rid of them in some underhanded way, maybe. That could have happened. And then the feud sort of changed to a feud between the Caps and the Montis after whatever happened between Consort and Patricio. But before that, maybe actually the Turners were a bigger player in this neighborhood. I feel like there's a lot of history in this house, no matter what story I go for. It's also quite interesting to think about the history of the neighborhood itself, because take, for example, the Summer Dream mansion. We have this really, really huge old mansion and a fairy family who has, in my mind, pretty recently moved in. Like, what was that house before they moved in? I'm really curious. I feel like maybe that also belonged to one of the wealthier families in the neighborhood, and that for some reason they have gone extinct. It's also too interesting to think about. Like maybe the Cap family has taken care of their rivals for generations, you know, in different ways. That would make sense, actually. So my vision for this part of the house was that this area is more for entertaining and guests. So I didn't really put in like more family type of furniture in here, more like they can play piano if they want their children to show off to their guests, and they have some sitting furniture here, but more for like sitting and relaxing and talking rather than watch TV or something else. Then of course you head into the dining room where you can get served a nice meal and so on. But then I also needed there to be a more family style living room for them to relax more. And that's what I made this room into. So this is where I am putting down, well, still expensive looking furniture, of course, but more functional things, I guess, for building up their skills and their fun meters. So I placed down the TV, of course, and the gaming console, some bookshelves, and also a stereo, actually. So I think that day to day, the family will probably use this room more than the other living room. And I think it also kind of fits with the fact that the Ralph's bedroom is very close to this. So I bet that he spends a lot of time in here and that he has lots of friends over and so on. I can really see him like hosting teenager parties, inviting people over, and yeah, that they are occupying this room at the parties. And that way that they can have sort of a more private area while the parents are being left alone to their own devices in the other parts of the house. And that's actually also a reason why I decided to squeeze in a small bathroom also downstairs by the staircase, because I had placed down a bathroom in Ralph's bedroom and then also one upstairs for like the family area. But then there wasn't really a bathroom for the guests, I felt like. So that's why I put in that, I guess it's called a cloakroom when it's just the toilet. Then it's time for the lights. And again, I went with quite a lot of wall sconces and such things. There's not really anything to do outside here in the garden at the moment. I was considering putting in a pool, and maybe I will at some point. I chose not to because for some reason I just felt like it would look a bit out of place here. But yeah, I might end up changing my mind. It might be the case that I end up putting in a hot tub or something like that instead. But yeah, I feel like I want to put down something in the garden more than what I have at the moment. But I guess that's gonna have to come later. I know it's a big house, but I somehow feel like it almost turned out looking bigger now than it did when I first started. I didn't expand the layout any, I don't think. The only thing that I did actually was add some walls where it was just columns before, so maybe that's what made it look more bigger in size. I don't know. It's interesting. I've actually also played with this house before, of course, when I played Veronaville back when. But I don't remember this house feeling this big back then either. So I must have done something to change things around. But I'm glad that I could preserve a lot of the original looks. Like, it's still very recognizable as the same house, even though I've changed things around so much. I'm very pleased about that. And actually, I didn't end up utilizing one of the most interesting features about this house, and that is the tower that you can only access when you walk along this long pathway by the roof. I didn't end up using that room for anything, and I feel like I want to wait a little bit to see what the family is actually like first. Before I utilize it for something, because maybe I want to make that into an art studio or something if one of them is interested in painting, or maybe that's a music room, or those kinds of things I can utilize it for. I'm gonna have to hold off for a little while to see what they actually end up using. And of course there's 2 rooms here as well that's not furnished at all. And that's sort of where I imagine that Edward would have thought that his kids would be. But that's just sitting empty now because April never ended up getting pregnant again. So yeah, this is what the house ended up turning out like. Again, I really like the way that this long room that's connected all the way from the staircase to the kitchen really turned out really nice. I love it. And I hope you enjoyed it too. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.